everybody out in Macabre Daily World. This is Brian Finnerty coming at you with another interview. And I'm really happy to be joined today by Emily Bennett and Justin Brooks, who are here to talk about their most recent feature film, Bloodshine. They are, in addition to being the filmmakers, also a married couple and co-wrote and co-directed this movie. Hi, good afternoon to you both. Thank you for
Hello.
joining.
Hi, Brian. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, how are you both doing today?
Good.
Freezing, but good. Very cold. It's snowing in the opening of Bloodshine. It's the outdoors are just piled with snow, so I'm very cold.
Except we could have used this amount of snow while we were filming Blood.
It's true. We had to manufacture some of ours, but
Yeah.
we're getting ahead
Oh,
of
Yeah.
ourselves.
so the first tidbit we get is some of the snow in your movie was artificial.
Real
Snow,
snow,
snow machine.
but made by a machine. Yeah.
Okay, very good. And you were telling me before we started recording, like just for people watching who wouldn't know, uh,
Hmm.
you are in the house where the movie was filmed, right?
We are. That's actually our home. So we live in the house that we filmed in. So yeah, we are also in real life live in the middle of nowhere in upstate New York. So
Not all the time. We travel a lot, and I we tend to get back to New York City quite a lot, just for sanity and social reasons. But yeah, we're in the house. It's the second feature film that we've shot where we live, so we're not
the last feature film that we've shot where we live. Yeah.
Is that
we don't recommend it.
Yeah.
have you both signed something to that effect? This is a legally binding
It's
statement.
gotten close for sure.
You're referencing your first feature, which was Alone with You, right, in
Yeah.
2021. And you filmed that in your apartment in New York. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. That was shot entirely during lockdown in Brooklyn.
Okay.
So yeah, shot in our apartment that I don't know. It's probably been underwater multiple times these past few years, but no, it's forever remembered and alone with you.
So what is like the good, the bad, and the ugly about shooting a film in the place where you're also living?
Well, I'll start with the good. I'd say the good is that, playing Clara, really understanding the space where your character inhabits and kind of becomes, has their day-to-day kind of existence, their physical reality. That was my reality. So I was kind of going through methodically like different rooms and what I was actually preemptively set dressing and doing a bit of art direction myself, obviously working with our production designer when they were on set, but I took time to kind of decorate little things, to have little rituals here and there. So the good part of that is that the space feels really lived in because I lived in
It is.
it and we lived in it. And we had, we're pretty meticulous about the lighting and the beauty, just capturing the natural beauty that is up here. The bad is that you don't have any privacy, you don't have any room. Gear is usually in our house anyway. Justin's a cinematographer, so our house is piled high with gear all the time anyway.
Mhm.
So add about 30 crew members and their gear, that gets real bad real quick. So it just gets a bit claustrophobic no matter how big the space is. Um, yeah, and it's just your house gets dirty. You end up missing stuff. I still can't find a couple of things
Yeah,
like clothing.
it's like having a full-on house party for about 25 straight days.
Totally.
That's it gets a little uh, a little cluttered. I mean, as far as the good stuff, I mean, as a cinematographer, it's great to understand how light works with the location. And I have about 40 some odd years of knowing how light works with this location. So
Justin
that
grew
was
up
really
here for
nice. I
people
grew
who
up
don't
in this
know.
house. Yeah.
Okay.
So that was really nice I mean, I've been dreaming about kind of shooting this place for years. I love the textures of the house. I love
Mm.
playing the way this house finds light. And also as directors, I mean, we become so familiar with the space that I think it might become a little easier for us when it comes to blocking,
Mm.
understanding where we need our scenes to function in space so that you get to spend that extra time really working with performance more than blocking and understanding the locations.
Yeah. Yeah, I would imagine it lets you almost like, yeah, skip some of those steps and really focus on like the creative part of the filmmaking
For sure.
and like getting into like yeah, just the story and telling it exactly how you want it to be told.
Mm,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
I'm wondering now too, since it was your childhood home, are there like some relics of like old movies that you shot as a kid or a teenager where we could watch the two next to each other and see the same settings?
It's funny. I wish I could find this when I was in high school. Of course, any opportunity to make any schoolwork creative was taken, and so we were doing something on the ancient Aztecs. So I, of course, being a horror fan since birth, decided I wanted to do a report on the human sacrifice that would happen, and so I made me and my buddies went down into the basement that is eventually used as one of the holding cells for our main character.
Mhm.
And we used that to shoot an entire Aztec sacrifice scene that at the time, none of us knew anything about movies outside of what we saw in the cinema. So
Bit of previs, like
yes, we're
vaguely early on.
standing next to the camera because that's where the mic was with celery for the broken bones and like it's amazing to see like what what a child's intuition turns into because it's very much in line with actually how things are done, which
Yeah.
was really funny. But
Yeah.
yeah, so there's this house has definitely been used in many
Uh,
creative endeavors throughout the years.
it's seen some stuff. So some of those blood stains in your basement were already there.
For
Yeah.
sure.
They weren't just
For
here for
sure.
bloodshine.
Yeah.
Um,
Mostly from Bloodshine, though.
so me being the consummate professional, of course, I forgot to ask you the most basic question. Can you tell us what bloodshine is about for anyone who's watching that hasn't had the pleasure of seeing it yet?
Sure. Bloodshine focuses on a character that I play, Clara, a very religious woman who lives in the middle of nowhere upstate. And she waits for men to pass or to come into her grasp in order to bring them through ritualistic tortures in order to bring about the coming of the new Christ.
Okay, so it's like
Yeah, so it's
a
a
feel
nice
good movie,
comedy.
Cool,
a
cool.
rom-com.
Yeah.
A rom-com, a love story. And in all seriousness, we did approach this very much. This is a dark love story. It's just told through the lens of body horror and folk horror.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that was something that like jumped out at me. I had the pleasure of being able to watch your movie at Brooklyn Horror Fest where I first met you,
Yeah.
or I should say, like accosted you during one of the later screenings to say, please, can we talk later? Um,
No, it was great.
uh, but like I watched it then, and then I was able to watch it again last night, just to like refresh my memory. And that is one of the really interesting things about this movie is, you know, for as like gory and dark as the themes get, there is this like, at least what I felt, this like intense respect to the characters and like their like really like validating their emotions and the connections that they build with each other, however kind of twisted and unhealthy they might be. Uh,
Mm,
Yeah,
thank
I
you.
thank you very much. I mean, it was definitely when dealing with something like um violence in film, especially in horror. I mean, especially when you go to the kind of the old French extreme,
Mm,
any of the what would later be dubbed as like torture porn and stuff. I think for us, violence has always felt like more of a gag if it's not very rooted in the character and the story. If it's
mhm,
just kind of thrown on screen as, violence for violence sake, that's not something I've ever been drawn to as a horror fan. I
Yeah.
love there are some films that I absolutely love that are considered very, very violent movies. But I think the difference is that I love them because the way the violence is wrapped up in the story. I think one of the things that sticks out to me is the original Martyrs.
mm,
um, I think
Mhm.
people don't often they speak of Martyrs as a violent film, but I don't know that it often gets thrown in the torture porn category because the
mm.
violence is very a part of that story and is handled in a very storyteller way that it doesn't just feel explicit or thrown on screen for the gag, you know?
Well, and I would actually compare our approach to Claire Denis' approach with Trouble Every Day,
Yeah.
which was a massive inspiration. And the cannibalism and the body horror that's happening in that film, it is one of two broken souls seeing each other and seeing something that they have in common with each other. And the body exists as a kind of metaphor for this ache, this addiction, this, shared connection that they have. And, the tragedy of that relationship is not that dissimilar from what we were kind of trying to achieve here. Brighton and Clara, when they meet, there is a connection there, and we can see it pretty immediately. And these are two very broken people, victims making other victims, but they
Yeah.
are beautiful, in their brokenness.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I agree. I'm kind of similar where I don't have any problem with violence in movies, but for me it always has to like serve a purpose. I tend to get turned off a little more by the movies that are just being like mean or cruel or violent just for the sake of kind of shock value. And that,
Mm.
I mean, I say is very honestly like it was never a thought with your movie. Like as violent and as
Thank
dark
you.
as it gets.
Thank you.
It's so thought-provoking. It almost, there were a couple scenes where honestly I wanted to turn away from the screen, but I was like, no, this is critical to the character's journey. Like, you have to watch this. Um,
Thank you so much.
Thank
Well,
you.
and I'd say the biggest compliment that we got when we were on set, kind of filming a lot of the violence that you see, we worked with Brian Spears, who is a legend in Glass Eye, picks Larry Fessenden's own pictures. He did The Innkeepers. Now he's kind of the head of American Horror Story. Like Brian works,
Smile. Smile
Smile.
too. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, incredible practical artist.
Yeah.
And we were on set with him. We had been working with Brian for quite a while. Prose aid transfers, the amount of continuity that we had to do on wounds was just crazy.
Oh, I
And
can imagine.
oh,
Yeah.
unbelievable. We had maps of bodies. It was just like, oh my God, just a whole wall in our house was devoted to that. But he walked up to us one day and he was quite thoughtful. And we were like, oh God, is Brian okay? And he just walks up and he was just like, I just wanted to let you guys know, like, this is a really this is a love story. And we were like, it is, Brian. Thank
Yeah.
you. So even our practical effects guy, the beautiful artist that he is, like admitted that too. So that meant a lot coming from him.
Yeah,
But
and I mean, the funny thing is there is certainly a place for like the shockorama kind of,
mm,
blood-soaked film. I'm my very beginning in film is actually special effects makeup. So
okay.
I studied that early in my career. And so I love the art and I love seeing that kind of thing played as as a on-screen magic trick sometimes, but for us as filmmakers together, I think we really, really, really focus on character and relationship first. That's where everything, that's the root of the tree for sure. And it has to start, everything has to start with character and relationship. And
Yeah.
I think you know, that approach makes the violence hurt a little more. Like it's
Mm.
less
Or feel a
of a
little better.
carnival ride and
Why
more of
not both?
you know yeah or
Yeah.
feel a little better
I
depending
mean,
on what you're into.
This is where that lovely married dynamic comes out. Like you're both
yeah.
thinking different things while designing the same scene.
Yeah, with our powers combined. We actually won't be directing our next features together. Kind of moving forward, we'll be kind of splitting efforts there, but always supporting each other. But
Mhm.
we are very different filmmakers, but the things that we need to come together to tell together, that this is a perfect example of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, we're very different filmmakers separately, but I think what we create together is unique
Yeah.
to that situation. I don't,
Yeah.
you know, neither Emily nor myself would have created Bloodshine on our own.
Mhm.
That's a movie that comes out of the two of us working together. The same can be said for Alone with You, and I think we want to take some time to tell our solo stories, you know,
Mhm.
for a little bit before we decide to come back together again. But
Hopefully for a massive paycheck too. Yeah. Married indie filmmakers is it
yeah,
can get a little tough.
we could work towards
Yeah.
split incomes rather than just taking a chunk of the same nothing
Be so
that
great.
independent film
I was
is.
gonna say, like, it creates like magic and beautiful movies, but it's like, yeah, one of
For
one of you
sure.
one of you couldn't have just gotten a traditional job to
You
to
can
support the other's
tell
passion.
you can tell
You
it's all
know.
about the love for cinema because nobody's nobody's getting rich on indie horror.
Uh, um, you mentioned like the how character driven it is earlier, and both Bright and Clara as the two primary characters,
Hmm.
like they were so complicated and so deep. And as you said, like very damaged people, but ultimately, like especially by the end of the story, like very relatable and very like I found I had a lot of like very tender feelings towards both of them too.
Hmm.
Um, I guess I wonder, could you talk a little bit about how you like how'd you come up with the idea for their characters? How did you develop their backstories?
Sure. I mean the idea for this film originally came from us having lunch one day, saying what do we want to tell next together. And the first thing we sat in silence for a moment because neither one of us really knew. I knew I probably wanted to be in it. I won't be in my next films, but I knew if we were going to work together again, I did want to be in it. And I immediately said, I want to play a woman of unshakable faith.
Hmm.
I grew up in the South, going to church. I had beautiful church communities. I had not so great church communities. And I was exposed to a level of faith that not a ton of people grow up with.
Mhm.
I watched people speaking in tongues. I kind of encountered every type of person you can in churches,
Yeah.
for good and for bad. But that idea of faith, that pure idea, take away religion, take away all things,
Mhm.
a faith in something that is unshakable. I was like, that, what is that? And I want to play someone, I don't know. Like I'm seeking that in myself. I think we're all kind of looking for what to believe, a North Star, even
Mhm.
as an artist. But I wanted to play someone who knew. And that's where it began. And I began with her in a very kind of tender way. My grandmother was a very faith-driven woman. And yeah, we just really wanted to focus on the faith with Clara. And then Brighton
Yeah.
kind of, we thought, what what foil can we give her? And Brighton was born.
Yeah, it's tricky because I mean, so when Emily and I work on character, there is there's a huge backstory and history that is never put on screen
Mhm.
explicitly.
Mhm.
Like there's pieces that are out there that you can probably pull from, but there are some parts of this
Yeah.
character that will forever be just known by Emily and myself. But that's to make sure that we're creating a character with history, a character with a strong root in the world that they live in, and I think
Mhm.
both of us are really attracted uh, to people that live in the gray, those people that are neither all great and or all evil, I think because that's very much the world we live in. Nobody is absolute just a bad, and we are not all just altruistic, saints. So it's fun to write those people because it feels very real. I think it's easier for people to empathize with somebody that's not just that doesn't feel false, they but that also brings a really tricky balance, especially I think with these two characters, because both of them are capable of pretty awful things. I mean, Clara, if you were to just look at the black and white of it, I mean, she kills people. Like she has murdered multiple people, and then
She's
you
not
look at
trying to.
she doesn't see it as that. She doesn't see herself as trying to kill for killing's sake. But then you look at Brighton, and Brighton is just, I mean, he's a shit. He's a guy that you just don't want. You certainly don't want your sister to be hanging. And he's
Yeah.
a scumbag at the top of it. But we are all deeply flawed individuals on our own. We are capable of great good and great evil, and I
Mhm.
think finding that balance was super tricky, and I hope it works. It might not for some people. Some
Yeah.
people might not be able to get past who Brighton is at the beginning or who Clara is at the beginning, and but I hope luckily, I mean, most of the conversations we've seen that people have been able to find empathy in that and find a way to understand those characters.
And in a way, I think seeing both of them suffer in their own ways, and
Yeah.
they both suffer, they're both doing terrible things objectively on paper. Brighton is a predator, so
Yeah.
is Clara in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
They are creating webs and capturing people in them. But once you see them suffering in the specific way that suffering teaches each of them, you see them grow. And so I think maybe that's why the violence doesn't feel gratuitous because that suffering does change them.
Yeah.
It's very purposeful.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, you referenced the characters' backgrounds and like without getting into too many specifics, Clara's character, it's very, very clearly it demonstrated that she has a really significant trauma history. But what I liked about it is that it never explicitly gives all the details. It gives these little flashes. You obviously kind of have her whole background fleshed out in your mind, but we as the audience just know that she's been through some really terrible things in her life. And there was one scene in particular where we see her kind of like at her most vulnerable. And I remember writing in my notes that and there's a testament to your acting, Emily, in that moment, she's so you see her pain so viscerally that you can in this extreme world through a movie, you can empathize with the terrible things that she does. Like you can understand if somebody's in that much pain, they would do anything to escape that pain, to feel better, to find a way out of it.
Mm,
It was so interesting.
thank you so much.
I think Emily and I both approach films in an understanding that this is a shared art form that the audience should be very much a part of. We don't want to just uh, we don't want to tell you what every single thing is, and because some of my favorite films, and I think certainly some of Emily's favorite filmmakers are people that allow your the audience's own imagination to
Mhm.
add to the story they're watching. And I think that's for me, was very important, and I appreciate what you said about the history is because we didn't want to be explicit and we didn't want to be expository. We wanted people to be able to kind of put their own imagination into what that could be, where that history could have led, and I think it allows you to maybe see a little more of yourself in somebody when you're not being told exactly who this person is and where they come from.
Mhm.
I love movies that very clearly have a much larger world that I don't necessarily know every piece of, but I understand that they fit in that world, and that's all I need, you know.
Yeah.
So that's always the hope for that.
And the specific scene you talk about and seeing her suffer and to keep it a bit vague, we do see some flashbacks or flashes of something she experienced. We don't know the full context of this, but
Mhm.
we also see her actions mirrored. We see
Oh, yeah.
her repeating some of those actions to others, and that kind of learned behavior. It's like if a boy is raised by an abusive father who's violent with him, that boy might mirror that behavior later in life. And so with Clara, victims be making victims.
Mhm.
That's such a complicated
Yeah.
idea, but it's so real. And
Yeah.
we don't answer, we don't say one way or another, like, this is bad. This is like, don't be this way. But it's more of like, let's explore this, right?
Yeah.
Let's wrestle with these ideas.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. Like so in my day job, I work as a mental health therapist, and
Yeah.
I don't know how much of this was me like projecting my lens onto the movie, but I found it fascinating from that perspective in terms of as someone who works with people who experience traumatic incidents. And I thought this movie just brought up really interesting questions about kind of like what freedom are we allowed in terms of healing and trying to heal ourselves in non-traditional ways or ways that might seem really unhealthy or maladaptive from the outside. Um, I mean,
Hmm.
I was thinking constantly throughout this movie about people who engage in cutting behaviors as a way to deal with trauma and mental health
Hmm.
and suicidal ideation and thoughts of death. And
Yeah.
what was, obviously again, through a movie, we can exaggerate, we can explore these things in really like ways that you couldn't in the real world. But it kind of forces the audience to ask these questions of, are these actually bad ways to deal with your trauma? Or like, does Clara have the agency to choose to heal in this way, even
Right.
if it seems really unhealthy?
Yeah, I
Hmm.
mean,
Hmm.
we both find uh, trauma and the way people deal with that unbelievably fascinating. And I think what in this instance, what was really interesting to play with is, I mean, there is a fine line between exposure therapy and re-traumatizing, right? And that is such a razor thin, and the line moves depending on the person. So it's really interesting to see um, how far people need to go or should go to be able to deal with the things that they've been through. And um, I think both of them are getting a little bit of exposure therapy through some of this, albeit very exposed.
Very extreme. We
But
call we call
The,
that flooding in the mental
yeah.
health world.
Yeah, let me just say the disclaimer. This film is not prescriptive anyway. We are not we don't condone repeating things that happen in this
Certainly.
film.
Yeah.
Um, try at your own risk, I guess.
It's
No, but
just,
that's
I
what's
mean,
cool about
real
movies is you can like be really extreme and really dark and like get catharsis through things that like that yeah we cannot do in our everyday
well, and
life.
is that not
For
what
sure.
horror has always been? I mean, horror is it's so funny. I often people often say like horror directors and horror fans sometimes feel like the most well-adjusted people you've met because I think we exercise that on the regular by through the media that we love, you know.
Mm,
When you write horror, you watch horror and you appreciate that, it is cathartic in being able to kind of put your like let's really face all our greatest fears and let's put it on screen and let's analyze that and let's try to, you know, where's the metaphor in this and what can we turn this into? I think it's certainly, you know, it's funny we whether it's called therapy or spiritualism or whatnot, it is you know, the cinema is our church that we're able to kind of go and find peace, you know.
and I will say, like, I I was a horror fan kind of growing up. I, became an actor. I trained in England. I trained at a very wonderful conservatory over there, and I got really deep into Shakespeare. And I wanted to train there, but I was like, I'm going to be a Shakespeare actor. But all I wanted to focus on were Greek tragedies and like Jacobean plays with like Titus Andronicus, Macbeth, like the dark, like horror,
Yeah.
basically horror. I was just
It
doing
is horror.
horror in theater, but it was those extreme metaphors and extreme stories that got close to how it felt to be me.
Yeah.
Because I felt like I was just screaming on the inside all the time, just like, how do I grow up? How am I supposed to be a woman? And I found just such a beautiful outlet and catharsis in those plays. And then I found the horror community. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Right.
truly the best.
That stuff totally is horror. This just reminded me. I was having a conversation with my neighbor the other day, and she was telling me about her nephew,
Mm.
who I don't remember the town, but some random little high school theater in South Jersey. And apparently they all the kids got together and they turned Macbeth into a 80s inspired slasher. Uh,
Yes.
and she was
Yes.
telling me how amazing it was. I wish I could have gone and seen it.
Yeah,
That's a great idea.
that's
Oh
awesome.
my God.
I'll get you their name and so maybe you can mentor this kid and this could be a future
Oh my
movie.
God. I'm picturing the costumes and
Yeah.
like Lady M's got like satin red gloves just being trying to wash her hands. Oh, that's such a good idea.
Emily is going to be optioning a high school play.
They gotta start somewhere.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. I love it. Yes, please give me the details. That sounds amazing.
Um, so I could talk about trauma and mental health and horror all day, but as we start to like kind of wrap up, I did want to ask about one totally unrelated thing. Um, the Clara's outfit, the costume in the movie. Who came up with that and where did that come from? It was iconic.
Patrick St. John. He is honestly, that was such a partnership
Sure.
with our costume designer. He made all of them for me, for my
Mhm.
body. Like measurements, they are part of Clara.
Mhm.
They became such Cl- Clara, if it's not clear just through our conversation, Clara is a woman who worships light
Mhm.
and worships not only the sun but light. God is in light and can enter through us, and we should be there to receive that. And so lighter colors do they kind of embrace that light. They reflect it, they celebrate it, they don't close it down like black would. And so we wanted to cloak her in these kind of natural fibers. There is the the white leather apron,
Oh yeah, with the
butcher's apron
boots. Hmm.
with the boots. And that's just for cleanup. But
Practical.
yeah, but we wanted everything to be very, very light colored to celebrate that light.
Yeah, and there are certainly nods to films that we love. in
Mhm.
uh,
Audition.
very
Yes.
very obviously audition.
I want to see like Asami and Clara like for a spin-off movie.
Have a picnic at Hanging Rock together.
Right.
Like that's just what they need to be doing.
There, yeah, so that, I mean, that's the way we like to reference any, we like to reference things a little subtly, less explicit, and but it was also, yeah, it was really important to that she was always in a white something, and in fact, if little kind of Easter egg, I guess. Everybody that we intended to be a part of the cult is wearing white somewhere on them closest to their body.
Oh,
So that was definitely because it like Emily said, it does actually have a history in a lot of theologies. I actually have a friend who started I sadly I don't fully understand the religion, but she is a witch of sorts.
oh,
And when she decided to go down that route, she started wearing only white, which she used to be uh, somebody that regularly wore black, because she said that that color invites negative vibrations. So those things are always kind of things we consider when, I mean, color is something. Me as a cinematographer and Emily as a storyteller, we really love to dive into and exactly who gets what colors and what represents what and how that is played with. And then when we were teaming up with Patrick, the costumer, it was just his
Such a
his
partnership.
yeah, his natural inclinations were just so perfect, and the way we spoke about building those worlds, he's such an artist.
And given such a like singular kind of palette, the
mhm.
textures
And
became so
because
important.
as a cinematographer, the last thing I want to put on camera is something white. It's
Mhm.
terrifying.
Yeah.
It's terribly difficult to shoot. As far as a technical aspect, when you're lighting a dark space and somebody is wearing all white, it's a nightmare.
Mm,
Because the exposure values are just so wildly different.
Mhm.
And white, of course, reflects light. Now that works for the story, but it's very difficult on a technical level. So working with Patrick on the textures and how we had to deal with those costumes so that they weren't going to always be glowing on screen
mm,
was something that we had to do fairly closely. But I mean, the great thing is that's something he thinks about all the time. He
yeah.
understands this has to be put on camera.
And the biggest compliment that we could possibly give him, we didn't even give him, a lovely filmmaker who happens to be a friend of mine, Alex Austin, dressed up as Clara for
Halloween.
premiere. So she actually consulted with Patrick before she got her costume.
Yeah.
So I'd say that's pretty much the biggest compliment
Any
we,
costume,
or Patrick
certainly.
could probably get.
Yeah.
That's such high praise. And that's yeah, all that detail about color is so fascinating. I feel like your movie will fall into that really cool category of horror films we talk about that take place in really bright light environments, which is such a interesting like subgenre of
Yeah,
movies.
we
Love horror in the daylight.
yeah, we really talked about that. We wanted to show horrific things in brilliant light,
Yeah.
that horror in sunlight is so, yeah, it's something you don't often see. It's just so
Hmm.
horror is so drawn to the dark and the shadows and whatnot. It's interesting when you see it just shown right in front of you, brilliantly lit.
Yeah. Well, like Emily and Justin, you two are fascinating, and I could literally talk to you for hours. But I want to be respectful of your time. Um, I want to thank you, and then also for people watching, I guess how can they keep in touch with you? How can they know, like, yeah, just keep up to date on the movie and when and how they can see it.
Yeah, Instagram's probably that's our social media of choice. I'm at J Brooks Film Emily is.
I'm Emily R. Bennett. I also run the Bloodshine Instagram page.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and I,
So
I have a website, emilyreneebennett.com. I have a lot of solo projects coming up and a new podcast
Yeah,
where
the
I
tower,
actually,
right?
yeah, The Tower, where the first episode, it's sponsored by Glass Eye Pictures. And my first episode is with my leader, our leader, all of our leader, Larry Fessenden. So tune into the Tower.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. Well, yeah, we'll make sure when we put this up on the website, we'll link to all that stuff so people can find it.
Oh, great.
So yeah, so Emily and Justin, thank you so much for your time,
thank
and
you.
thank you everybody out in Macabre Daily World for watching and listening, and keep an eye out for Bloodshine. It is, yeah, an incredible, awesome, wild ride, and everybody should seek it out as soon as they can.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks so much.
All right, take care.
Take care.
Bye.